Oh, Taizai, how I missed you last week. Oh, it feels so weird waking up on a Monday morning without a Taizai chapter. Is anyone else with me on that? Because, I mean, usually Nakama-sensei is someone that constantly has a chapter every single week. This man barely takes breaks. The only time he ever takes breaks is if it's a mandatory break. So it's very strange when we finally have a time to where, Nakama-sensei takes a break and there's no chapter for a week, because it just throws you off. Because this man could go for years without taking one break, because the last time he actually took one that wasn't mandatory was when he was sick, like, sometime last year. It was, like, early last year when the anime first aired. So, like, overall, I was just surprised, but I'm glad to see that Taizai is back once again, and with a new chapter this week on early Monday morning. So to dive right into it, this chapter was very, 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 very predictable. Like, I mean, I think we all saw this kind of coming. Either it was going to be two outcomes. Either Diane and, King, they were going to have a fight to the death, and they were going to get their ass whooped, or they were going to win against, the king of the, giants and also the fairies. Something like that was going to happen, or it was going to be a training arc. Like, either they're going to be defeated or win, and then it was going to be like a real battle, or it was going to be something to do with training for these two characters. But regardless, it had something to do with a potential power-up because of, the king of giants, the king of fairies, and, King and, Diane needing a power-up. It just makes so much sense that this would have been the time for their power-up for them to get stronger. And so, this chapter, a very, very, very predictable chapter. I mean, the overall outcome of it was to be expected, but I mean, it leads to a lot of, like, what's going to happen next. Like, what is going to happen, how these characters are going to develop, and how helpful are these two previous 10 Commandments going to help them out, and why the sudden change, and why are they helping them out right now. But regardless, though, let's just talk about what is on the table here for these two characters to change. We know Diane has been extremely lacking, since we know she can't keep up with the other 7 deadly sins. At the very least, King was able to take down Albion a long time ago throughout the series. So, I mean, this man, he isn't completely weak, but he can't really stand up to a 10 Commandment. And also Bon as well. I mean, he could actually still power from people, but overall, he still needs a buff as well. But that's for another time and another day. So, right now, though, Diane and her power-up, it's really needed at this time. We've seen glimpses with, a flashbacks and stuff like that, and also how she's been trying to dance and, kind of blend herself with the earth. This has been showcased multiple chapters ago, about 10 to 15 chapters ago, and overall, though, Diane has been trying to improve and get stronger. And so, right now, her way to increase her, potential and power potential for she can actually go up against 10 Commandment type threats, she is going to need to learn how to kind of dance with the earth, which at the first glance, it seems rather stupid, but you gotta remember, she uses, like, earth type bending type magic, and overall when she's like using the earth and she's moving with it, she has to kind of be able to talk with it. So when she's dancing, it's kind of like she's communicating with it. And so it seems like, Balor, he's trying to teach Diane, like, hey, I want to teach you how to actually properly use the earth and dance with her, blend with it, for it will work for you, because I feel like that's kind of what he's going to be teaching her. And when she was noticing in the fight how it seemed like he was dancing while he was dodging everything, that's kind of how he's probably going to be teaching Diane. Diane, she's probably going to be able to dodge things, and it looks like she's dancing, and she can counteract with her abilities because she's dancing while dodging or doing whatever she's having to do while she's attacking. So her overall potential, it's very high. We've seen in the past that she's had a high potential since she was a very little kid, and so if she can kind of get a grip on her powers, she could possibly become one of the strongest giants ever, and even get better than Balor. I mean, even stronger than him and surpass him. Now, on King's side, King as a person, he is very strong. He's shown that he's a very strong 7 deadly sin. Even though he hasn't gotten a power-up, he's kind of had his, weapon the entire time. He's had his sacred weapon with him since the earlier on in Taizai. He used to be one of the strongest, but he's no longer that anymore. I mean, like I said, he took down Albion a long time ago, but he's nowhere in the same league with Merlin, Meliodas, and Escanor. He just doesn't even compare to their power. He just doesn't. And so, one of the big things that's been driving him back fact throughout the recent chapters is that he doesn't have wings. And as I've said many times in the past, this is something that all of us have speculated about and questioned, like, what is going on with King? Why doesn't he have his wings? Is he been cursed by something? Is he a human? Is he a half-fairy? I mean, there's just so many things we have questioned many times over, and now with this being the main focus, when his wings probably come out, it probably has a symbol of power to show that he finally can use the full potential of his abilities, and his stamina won't completely run out. I mean, you gotta think about this. We know that, his, sacred weapon, it runs out. Like, he runs out of stamina rather quickly when he uses it, and so when he's doing this, you have to realize if he actually had his wings and all that, and he got his power up, he might be able to use his abilities without, tiring out rather quickly. He could easily, do a bunch of long-term combat before he has to pass out. And so I feel like that's kind of what this, training for King is going to be. Bringing out his wings, but also increasing his stamina for he could continue to fight at longer periods of time instead of just quick little bursts. For instance, fight for maybe like a minute or two and then, fall out because, he doesn't have any more stamina to move. I feel like that's kind of what this fight's going to be about for King. He's going to try to increase his stamina and also bring out his wings. But that's about it when it comes to this chapter. I mean, the chapter is very straightforward and basic, and it was to be expected because it was a predictable chapter. It wasn't a bad chapter. It's just, if you're expecting something very different, then you're going to be sadly disappointed because the chapter doesn't offer anything necessarily different that we did not expect. So I want to ask a quick question. How does everybody feel about, the previous King of the Fairies and King of the Giants actually helping out King and Diane? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about seeing King and Diane finally having their power up and it might eventually be useful with the other 7 deadly sins? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. Y'all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.